And good morning. I have a face mask on today. My oldest daughter, who lives at home currently, has COVID, so hence the mask. My support worker's wearing one as well. Um, I put up in a post on one of those Facebook pages yesterday or the other day asking, is disability in itself, is aging in itself a disability? So as we get older, we start to slow down, our mobility decreases, we develop sensory impairments for our sight and hearing through glaucoma or macular degeneration, or our hearing decreases. And if you look at it, that's a long-term impairment, which would come under the guise of a disability. You look up the definition of a disability, it's an impairment or a handicap in being able to perform functions, whether it's your legs, your arms, your eyes, that sort of thing. So I asked that question and I got a lot of mixed responses. Some said, no, it's not. Some said it shouldn't be. Some said it should be. And this raised, for me, it raised a few concerns. Um, so my support worker and I, Chris, we had a look on the NDIS website, and it says if you have a disability before the age of 65, you can get the NDIS. However, you can stay in it for the rest of your life. But however, after the age of 65, if you go into a retirement home or a similar institution or facility, you can lose the NDIS. And again, is that fair? Because someone is aging and requires more support through an aged care facility, why would the NDIS be taken away? I thought that would have increased myself. I just don't understand it. And some of the responses I got back, I could understand where they're coming from. And I'd say most of those people who opposed it were younger people in their 20s and 30s. But people like myself, I turned 59 this year. I've slowed down a hell of a lot. It's taken me a lot longer to recover from trips and falls and hurting myself. Yeah, I'm totally blind, so there's no light perception whatsoever. But I was thinking about other people who are over the age of 65 who need mobility scooters or walking frames to be more mobile, who are developing glaucoma and macular degeneration in their older age, becoming severely vision impaired. Why are they being excluded from the NDIS? I really don't understand it. Someone said that in that response to my question, is age in itself a disability? Is cancer then treated as an impairment? Because you can lose a lung or lose a limb to cancer, but is cancer itself a disability? And that's a good question that was posed. And my answer to that is if you look on the NDIS website, you'll see a list of illnesses that are classed as disabilities because they have a long-term impairment, such as multiple sclerosis, which I have. Motor neurons disease is another one that's quite, even though it's uncommon, it seems to be more people seem to be coming down with it. So if they allow MS and other diseases like motor neurons and all that. Why not Parkinson's or dementia or cancer? I just don't know. And I've been reaching out to people, especially to Bill Shorten, to come and talk on not just this issue alone, but I'd just like to see if other people who are listening to this, whether they agree or disagree that aging in itself is a disability. To me, it is, because you lose your mobility over a long period of time. For the rest of your life, your mobility decreases to become more dependent on family. And it's a well-known fact that people surviving on the age pension live well below the poverty line compared to those people on the disability support pension. Now, the DSP is just above the poverty line. So why would someone on the DSP at the age of 65 then be put onto the aged care? Is it just to save money because they're going to need more supports, more care? For the younger people, it's not going to affect you for another 30, 20, 30, 40 years. But you are going to get older. It's inevitable. You're going to get older. And you're going to be in the same position that people like myself are getting close to getting into now. If you're living below the poverty line and you go into my aged care, how are you going to fund those supports when you're already living below the poverty line? You have no savings at all, and you're solely surviving on the age pension. How are you going to pay for those supports? If the government's going to fund those supports, well, why not just put them on the NDIS if they're going to pay for it anyway? I know it's a thin line to walk, but every one of us are going to walk that line once we get older. It may take 20, 30, 40 years for some people to get there, but you'll get there. And hopefully, by the time you get there, things will be a lot better than they are now. Why are we discarding someone because of their age? Because someone's over 65, they're worth less? Don't we, as people with disabilities, fight against that notion? That because we have a disability, we're somehow perceived as being less valuable? We don't contribute to the community? If you're younger, put yourself in the position that many people are now facing. You know, they've got kids who are busy with their own lives and don't have time for their parents, and they're getting older and they go into an aged care facility because the kids can't help look after them. But if that happens, they take the NDIS away. But the government still needs to provide those supports anyway. So it's 6 to 1. To me, it's 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. I just don't understand why we see older people as being worth less than what younger people are. Now, they might have worked their whole life and never faced any real health issues. Paid their taxes, done what they're supposed to do, looked after their family, put a roof over their kids' heads, sent them through school and university. And now because they're over 65 and they're losing mobility and they're losing eyesight through different diseases and or losing their hearing or both. I know a few people who are vision impaired and hearing impaired. Are you going to throw them on the scrap heap as well because they're not worth as much as someone else? Now, those are my views and my opinions. But I would like to hear from other people. Is there anyone in? No one in chat. Yeah, I thought I might have had a few people come in and listen and pose questions or come up to talk about it because we're all going to get older. We're all going to go through this sooner or later, some sooner rather than later, but we're all going to get there. I just, we're a throwaway society. Why are we throwing people away because they're over the age of 65 and we don't value them as much as we do younger people? Fancy working your whole life, working hard as you can to support your family, and you retire on the age pension, and then something happens and you lose your mobility or you lose your sight or your hearing or, your mobility goes, and we just turn our backs on them. Is that not cruel? Yes, I can understand, like, older people, they're more susceptible to strokes and heart disease, and they're probably diseases that aren't recognised with the NDIS. But regardless of that, they still need those supports anyway. But how are they supposed to fund them if they don't have fund the supports, if they don't have the financial resources because they're living below the poverty line? I know a lady here where I live. She's mid to late 70s, has a severe vision impairment, refuses to admit that she has a vision impairment, refuses any assistance whatsoever. She walks around everywhere. She refuses to admit she has a disability. So do we just turn our backs on her and say, oh, well, you're old. You really don't matter that much. I personally don't want to live in a society where we view other people, whether their age or they have a disability or the colour of their skin, are viewed and valued less than younger people. It's a tragic outcome. I know people on my aged care, they basically get nothing from their pension because it all goes in funding supports, subsidised supports. And they go into these aged care facilities just sitting there waiting to die. It's a scary thing when you're getting up towards that age and, you face that yourself. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a tricky situation. It doesn't have to be an issue that we can ignore. We can talk about it. We can show compassion and empathy. empathy, equality, and equity. The 3 E's. We have empathy and understanding of what other people are going through. We have equality where we try and treat everyone the same, regardless of their age, their disability, the color of their skin, their religion, the cultural beliefs. And we have equity. We all share in the responsibilities. We all share the financial costs. We all have the same inputs into what goes on and around us. It's not a hard stretch. It's not hard to get your head around. I mean, that woman who was tased, that 95-year-old grandmother, she was walking towards police in a walking frame at a slow rate. She had dementia. Yep. Oh, hi Glenn, how you going? Good to see you here. Thanks for coming. I don't know. That old lady died after she was tased by the police and fell. Do we not value her life as much as a younger person? Is she worth less because she's old and has dementia and mobility problems? Or do we give her the same compassion and understanding and empathy that we would give to everyone else? Or do we just feel sorry for the elderly lady's family, her children, her grandchildren, her great grandchildren? Everybody's worth something. Just because you're old doesn't mean you're not worthwhile. I love talking to older people. They have lots of good stories. They're living history. So yes, I think age in itself is a disability and they should be covered by the NDIS because they're going to get funding anyway through my aged care. So why not just put them in the NDIS or expand the NDIS to incorporate those people? It's just a shame that we view older people like that. And we can't give them the same opportunities to get out in the community to we do for people with disabilities. I don't know if anyone wants to come up and have a chat about it or give their views on it. There's a link above the chat comment section. You just click on that and just follow the links through. It's not hard to do. I can do it. So there's a few channels I go to regularly, like Glenn Lambright's channel. I've got Silver Diamond. There's a lot of channels I go to that I access all the time. So if you want to come up and talk about it or talk about something else, just hit that link and come up. Or if you just want to put a question into the comments, just type it in and we can read it out. But yeah, I don't know. It's one question I would like to ask Bill Shorten. to get their views and opinions on it, and Pauline Hanson as well. But I doubt she'll respond because it probably doesn't fit her narrative. She likes to do the scaremongering bit where she only picks some little bits and pieces out of stories out that suits her agenda and she runs with it. She reckons she speaks for the average person on the street. Well, you know, there's a lot more to the world than a fish and chip shop. I can tell you that now. But yeah, is there any chat or any questions come up? All right. Well, yeah, if nobody wants to come up and have a talk about it, that's fine. We'll all right. Thanks for coming today, Glenn. I do appreciate it. I'll see you on your channels in the next few days, I suppose. All right. I might end that stream today, and hopefully people can think about that question. All right. Okay. Thank you.